Hey Zach, it's Dr. Scott. I have some feedback for you on your Essay 2 draft. Just as a quick reminder, the things that I'm looking at, I'm giving you guys grief for using the word things, and here I am using it. The criteria that I'm looking at for your revision are your ability to write a solid thesis statement that's focused, it's clear, it's debatable, interesting. I'm also taking a look at your ability to use details from the murals to support your argument. So from the murals, but also I'm asking you to integrate a couple sources. And the third criteria is your ability to organize your ideas, so you are grouping ideas together, and then you have a solid reason for why you're locating ideas in the place that you have them, and using transitions to show how ideas are connected to each other. And then finally, I'm looking at your ability to integrate sources. So those are the four criteria that I'm looking at, and what I did with your draft is I kind of read it a couple times, and I have just a few notes. They're just reminders to myself of things to talk to you about. I would say that your essay at this point, it's a draft, like it's just kind of ideas down on the page, so that's the way that I kind of read it. It feels like there's still some thinking to be done about what your actual argument is, and like when I read this first paragraph here, it felt like this was the thesis statement, so I was anticipating paragraphs about realism and depth, and the argument is that those are the two ways that Daffer got across the impact that the Native Americans in this area felt due to the influx of colonizers. So that's the way that I kind of read it. That's not necessarily what I saw happening in the body paragraphs. I did see these first three paragraphs in your paper. They felt like they were all trying to serve as an introduction, and all three of them have interesting things that could be used, or they have interesting concepts and they have interesting facts that could be used for an introductory paragraph. But I don't think you need 3 paragraphs to get this paper off the ground. It should be down to 1. So for me, there's cutting to be done. Maybe there's some details here that you use in your body paragraphs, but the body paragraphs are really, they are like realism, depth, and any other ideas that you are able to kind of generate from taking a look at those 2 murals. So the first 3 body paragraphs, there's some condensing to happen. There's maybe some details that should end up later in body paragraphs, but I don't think you need 3 paragraphs to get the essay off the ground. One of Stedman's no-nos, like we're talking about integrating sources, was ending a paragraph with a quote, and here you have one. That's a really good quote to use, though, and I hope that you stick with it, but it needs to get integrated into the writing, and that just kind of uses an appendage at the end of a paragraph. So that's my feedback on those first 3 paragraphs. Here, when we get into here, it feels like this is where the essay really begins. Like this feels like the first body paragraph. And it feels like you're still trying to figure out where to, like how to argue about these 2 murals. And I think, and this is something for you to consider, you don't need to run with it, but it seems like the 2 murals have a before and after, like they're hinting at a before and after. Like we are seeing Native Americans before colonization in that Shawnee Village mural, and just the area looks it looks much more different than in later murals. So I think that contrast idea might be part of the point, and it's up to you. But for me, that kind of stands out as something that you could argue about. Is like the difference of what the Shawnee villagers had and the way that they were impacted. They're just kind of not around, and the area looks significantly different without them in it. I think another way to I'm trying to help you think of ideas for body paragraphs, and I think like the different actions that are portrayed in the 2 murals So you have the 1812 era mural, and I don't know exactly what mural that is. I don't know if that's like the French, the dude with the large flag shows up to claim the land for France. I think that's the other mural that you're talking about. I'm trying to help you think of ideas that you might be able to generate, or body paragraphs you might be able to generate out of those two murals. And I think in actions, like the actions that are depicted in the two murals, in the Shawnee Village mural, like it's a pretty peaceful setting. Like they're just kind of going about their existence. Like, the women are maybe preparing food or something like that. The men are enjoying a conversation, and it's kind of peaceful. At the other one, the 1812 mural, that's a bit more tense. There's this conflict between French colonizers, and then there's already British settlers there. And I think if you do a little bit of research about what's going on in that mural, because it's actually a mural of a painting that's pretty well known, that depicts the French colonizers coming to this area, trying to claim the land for France, but there were already English and Native Americans living in the area. And it's kind of a tense situation. So we have the before, which is peaceful setting, and then we have this like tense situation between different groups who all have kind of competing claims on this area. And it's a very different kind of image. It's different in the actions. It's different, I think, in how it's painted. I think it's different in the colors that are used. So I think those two or three things, could be ideas that you have body paragraphs about. The figures idea, I'm not following that just at this point. There might be something there, and for me it's like, what is the overall argument that you're trying to get at by talking about figures? It was clear to me in the thesis statement, but it doesn't seem to be translated out to the body paragraph. Okay. And I know, okay, so here's where you're going with that. Talk about how they're connected. You do want to keep in mind that you want to write about both murals in the same body paragraph. The problem that I'm seeing with folks that are trying to like do one paragraph about this mural and then another paragraph about the 1812 mural is that they end up summarizing what's going on. So, and you're kind of doing that here. You've got the figures and the murals, and you're just kind of summarizing what's happening with them in there. And there's really no kind of connection to like, all right, this is why the way that they're being represented here, here's how it relates to this overall argument that I have. That's really not happening here in this paragraph. But when you get both murals together and you're using some detail and you're explaining as you go how those details relate to the larger argument, then you're going to have a paper where you're actually supporting that argument instead of kind of summarizing the murals that you have. That's a lot that I'm throwing at you. Don't be shy about coming and chatting with me. This is a tough assignment. You're picking murals that are that definitely work for this assignment. They're not necessarily murals that people typically pick for this assignment, but they totally work. I'd be more than happy to help you. Not so happy little trees. I just caught that. Sneaky. Well done. But I'd be more than happy to help you brainstorm some ideas to get you a little bit more confident about where you're going, and to help you revise that thesis statement and get an argument that's going to have some legs that you can support. That's my feedback for now. If you got questions, don't be shy.